Welcome to Village Church Connections. I'm David Pavey. Some years ago, I was charged with organizing a missions exposure trip for 30 young adults interested in Christian ministries in Europe. We were to dialogue with pastors and missionaries in France, Italy, and Germany, attend national church services, hold informal open-air meetings, enjoy edifying fellowship, and see some of the sights in the bargain. For our travels, I booked a coach from the UK. The driver showed up with a bus that was more suited to taking groups of elderly ladies into the English countryside for strawberries and cream teas than for dealing with the continental conditions, which included alpine mountain passes. The bus had a right-hand drive and no air conditioning, but Joe the driver was the archetypical phlegmatic Englishman who was not fazed by any problems and spoke our language. After meeting in Paris, we worked our way south to Rome. But there the trip went pear-shaped, as the Brits say, when things don't go according to plan. One day in Rome, our bus dropped us off in a narrow one-way street near the Trevi Fountain, the largest Baroque fountain in the city, known for the Three Coins in a Fountain movie. I told people that because the bus would block all traffic on the one-way street while we boarded, we must be ready to board exactly where we were dropped off at precisely 4 p.m. The time came, we boarded quickly, I did a hurried head count, and one was missing. It was Kurt. Traffic was piling up behind us. Joe the driver asked what he should do. "Drive on," I said. "Drive on." We were staying at an excellent hostel run by the Salvation Army in Rome. Everyone had been charged to have some money, the hostel address, and their passport with them, so I believed that Kurt would soon find his own way back to our residence. But he didn't. Hours later, I informed the American embassy that Kurt was missing. They knew nothing. We had an English-speaking missionary friend in town who had presented his ministry to the team. He joined me late at night to search the Trevi Fountain area. There was no sign of Kurt. We went to the police. They laughed and asked me if I had any idea how many young men had met an Italian chick that day and gone missing in Rome. The group was to leave early in the morning for Venice, 350 miles north. Should we delay? Should I notify the mission office in Chicago? The parents? Our missionary friend encouraged us to have the group leave on schedule and said he would help Kurt find the train to Venice whenever he showed up at the Salvation Army hostel. 2 days after losing Kurt, that's 48 tense hours, I received a call at the hotel in Venice from my missionary friend in Rome. Kurt had been found and would be arriving on the evening train. He did, with his tail between his legs. Finding that he'd missed the bus and having no money or passport with him, he had been unable to remember where the group was lodged. Some benevolent nuns had tried to help him by taking him to a convent where, eventually, he remembered that he had been lodged at the Salvation Army. The nuns kindly returned him there, where the receptionist contacted the missionary who was holding his baggage. The missionary in turn linked up with Kurt and put him on the appropriate train to Venice. You know something? For the rest of our travels, I never had one person who was late for the bus. Not one. Ever. Kurt had only himself to blame for not following the order to be ready for the bus at 4 p.m., for leaving the hostel without money, without his passport, and without the hostel address. If he had obeyed, he would not have spent 2 full days before he could reconnect with the group, and he would have saved me no end of concern. Of course, most of us struggle in some ways to respect authority. Children don't want to obey parents. Employees resist obeying employers. And citizens refuse to obey certain laws. But all of us have to obey some authority over us, or there will be anarchy. Ever since the Garden of Eden, man has found it a struggle to obey God. And the Bible has much to say about obedience. If you love me, keep my commandments, said Jesus. And to some who were resisting his teaching, he asked, why do you call me Lord, Lord, when you don't do what I say? The prophet Samuel informed Israel's King Saul, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed is better than the fat of rams. We can go to church and do all kinds of good deeds, but God is looking for a heart that is devoted to him and obedient. Ideally, our obedience to God is not just a matter of duty, of course. We obey him because we love him. The Christian life is about relationship rather than rules. I think my friend Kurt learned a lesson in Rome. It pays to respect authority. And God is the ultimate authority and calls for our obedience. How are you doing on that score? And thank you for tuning in once again to Village Church Connections.